Welcome to the More to Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace.
And today we are joined by Sarah Simpson, who is a body image coach. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very happy you're here as well. So you are currently in Bali. Whereabouts in Bali?
I am in Canggu area, if anyone is familiar. I've been here for 3 years, but I lived in Uluwatu, which is like the beachy surf town that people love, for about 2 years. And then I moved up to what here is like the bigger city. It's not even a city, but it's a bigger town, about a year ago. And so I feel like I'm just getting settled and comfortable here. It feels really good.
Oh, I love Bali. It's got such a vibe, hasn't it? Such a vibe. And so you were telling me before we went live just a little bit about where else you've been. You also travel from the UK to the US and Bali.
Yes, I've been all over this island this year, and I've also been all over the world. I think this year alone, I have been to the States. Gosh, it feels like a long year, doesn't it? Back to the States twice, and I've gone through Turkey and London on the way. So done like a pit stop in Istanbul and a pit stop in London as well. So I got to spend some time there, actually meet some of my clients in person for the first time, because I have a lot of clients from the UK. And that was amazing. Island and all over the world for this work.
Yeah, that's amazing though, right? You get to do a job that not only you love, but also you can travel and meet clients in person. Fantastic. So just talk us through then a little bit about what you do as a body image coach.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for actually almost 5 years now. March will be 5 years. And it's changed a lot in that time. I started just one-on-one private sessions, coaching women through everything from feeling comfortable in a bathing suit to the beginnings of intuitive eating and their relationship to exercise. I find that with body image, we often talk a lot about diet and exercise because they're two of the main ways that we control our body and we measure our body. But yeah, really helping women, and sometimes men, I will say, sometimes men, but mostly women, just find the confidence to be seen and to take up space. Oftentimes they're navigating body changes that have resulted from life changes. So a lot of people who gained weight during the pandemic, a lot of people who have gone through grief or job loss or life changes that are even happy sometimes, like marriage or just coming out of an eating disorder and gaining weight in that process. And it's really meeting every client where they're at and helping them figure out what their healthiest body not looks like, but feels, and what those rituals and routines around that look like, so that they can live whatever their happiest dream life is. For me, that might be a life heavy on travel. For a lot of my clients, that might be a really strong corporate career or motherhood, or maybe they don't know what it holds, but they just want to be happy. They want to make big changes. And so I really meet everybody where they're at. But these days, I've shifted mostly to, as I was telling you before, community and groups. Like all of my work these days is mostly focused on community and creating spaces where you don't just do a lot of the body image healing and learn a lot about how to be body confident and release your insecurities about your body. But what I've found so much value in is being able to walk away from these experiences with friends, like with people in your life who you know actually get it. Like you and I, even speaking before the call, you mentioned your eating disorders, and I'm someone who understands, who has been there, doesn't need to ask a million questions or get really uncomfortable the way that a lot of clients have had people react in their life. And so I've started creating these community spaces, whether it is retreat days, workshop days, the online group that I run every quarter, so 4 times a year, my Dream Girl Circle. I love it so much. That's a whole other story. I get so excited when I talk about it.
Your face is just telling me everything.
I spent so much time with them this week because we had a group call, and then I did a bonus session for the holidays, like purely focused on navigating the holidays, special time of year where a lot of triggers come up. And then I just spent about 20 minutes sending voice notes in the group chat because they had more questions that I wanted to answer. So like, it's an amazing group of 11 that I have right now. Every single one of them is inspiring and wonderful. And they're from 4 different countries, They range from age, I think youngest is 26, oldest is 54. We've got a 26-year-old in med school and a 54-year-old with 4 children, and they can still connect on so much of this and heal together. And long story short, yeah, retreat days, workshop days, online coaching, the women's circle I host in Bali. If anyone's in Bali, check with me maybe on Instagram. At the time, I usually run it every 2 weeks in Uluwatu, and that's just a free offering where I meet women from all over the world, and I hold space and we connect, we bond and we talk and we heal. That's the long answer of everything I do. It's a lot. And I travel all over the world to do it. I host workshops in different countries, retreats in different countries is my vision for 2026, and the online groups as well, so that people from all over the world can join.
Yeah, I love that. I think for anyone listening who is experiencing body dissatisfaction and struggles with food and body, which most people who listen to this podcast are, they will really resonate with actually how important it is to connect with people who have similar experiences and struggles, because you really can feel like you're the only one that feels the way you do about yourself or eats the way that you do about yourself. I remember going through my recovery and finally talking openly and meeting other people who had it. And I just felt like so empowered, and the connection just felt way more heightened than just like another connection I would make.
Yeah, fun story. My whole career in this work obviously started after my own struggles, but really it started when I started sharing about my struggles on Instagram, because this was 6 years ago, I believe, and TikTok didn't exist. You could only post photos on Instagram. Like, it was a way smaller community that people actually like made friends on. I feel like social media has changed so much in that way, but I started posting about being a health and fitness girl. And then it was like, oh, this is an eating disorder recovery blog now, surprise. But then my whole journey, like gaining weight, learning how to be an intuitive eater, navigating all of the unknowns, buying bigger sizes of clothes. I was sharing all of that. And I had maybe 150 followers on Instagram. Maybe half of them were personal connections, half of them were strangers. And I started making friends. And I had never had that experience before, but I had people who were DMing me and being like, you've been through the same thing I've been through. Let's share stories. And that was so healing for me. And then as time went on, more and more people were asking me questions, and I was learning more and I was helping others. And that's how I fell into this job, but also how I healed so much myself 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, and no doubt it was a journey. I'd love to just delve into this. So when was your first experience or first memory of having a negative thought or feeling around food and body?
Yeah, it's so funny you ask this, because this week in my Dream Girl Circle is unlearning these past memories, like unlearning the lessons and the beliefs they gave us. So I've been asking my girls all week about their early experiences and sharing a lot of my own. The first one that comes to mind, I think I was about 8. I'm trying to rack my brain and see if there's anything earlier, but I think I haven't peeled back any more layers than being 8 years old. I say that because I used to not remember anything. I don't know about you, but like I had just completely blocked all of it out. And when I was talking to the girls this week, they said a lot of the same things. Like, I can objectively remember maybe what I looked like at that age, or who my teachers were in school, who my friends were, but I don't have memories of how it felt. And so I think questions like this are so valuable, because we have to revisit these early beliefs that really shaped who we are today. So I was about 8, if I had to guess, and I was actually told by a family member that my body was a problem. So I was very aloof. I was, again, just a little kid, and probably that age where like little kids start to have a little belly, and it's so cute. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's adorable. And if I look at pictures of me now, I'm like, that child was so young. I can't believe somebody said this to me. But long story short, I grew up in a family, me, my sister, my parents, extremely loving parents, extremely stressed about finances. And so I, as a child, loved to drink milk. I was always like, can I have a glass of milk? Can I have a glass of milk? Can I have a glass of milk? And so I, in a financially strained household, had a limit. And this limit was already imposed at the time of this story, but I had a limit of 3 glasses of milk a day. And I cherished them because it was like my favorite thing in the world. And I was at a family member, like distant family member's house, and I couldn't find my parents. And I was 8 years old. And so I remember like tugging on probably like the short pants, the jacket of whoever I was speaking to. I believe it was my uncle, and looking up and being like, "Can I have a glass of milk?" And what he said to me, he's since been divorced out of the family, which gives me peace in this story. Man, to an 8-year-old said to me, he was like, "Sweetie," very condescending, "Sweetie, you can't have any more milk. You're getting too big."
Oh.
And I remember being so confused because I thought that the whole milk thing was like we're conserving resources, not we're trying to keep your body small. And I do believe that's what it was. It's probably just that my parents had said in passing at a family function, "Don't give Sarah any more milk. She's had enough." And he put his own body beliefs onto it. He made the assumption that it was about my size. And I remember just being confused. I think confusion is one of the most painful emotions when we are children, and it causes us to develop such harsh beliefs towards ourselves because we assume the worst in order to protect ourselves. And so that was one of my first memories. And I remember having so many struggles with the concept of like empty calories through beverages, the stress about what I'm eating, making me gain weight, worrying that feeling of everybody else can see what's wrong with me, but I don't know what it is. There's almost like this thing that I need to figure out and fix because it's going to be embarrassing if everyone can see it but me. And that thing is probably my body. And that's how I felt as a child. It was like the trigger point for so much that came after.
Oh, and you can see now just from your story and your recollection that one comment or sentence has just stuck with you for the entire time. It just shows the power of language, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
When speaking to people who do struggle with food and body, quite often it can just be one person and one comment, and that was it. Or it could be like repeated exposure to comments around diet culture. And like you said, that was his thing, that was his belief, and he passed that on to you.
Yeah.
Angry. So what happened from that moment then? That you touched on it a little bit, then there was some obsession and stuff. So what kind of happened in the following like 10 years?
Yeah. So if I was about 8 at that time, again, this is all things I've worked so hard to unlock the memories of. I blocked so much of it out for so long. In the next, say, 6 years, became a girl going through puberty. I was tall before everyone. I had boobs before everyone. I've got a good sized chest still now, but I developed early and I developed big, for lack of a better word. And I had already carried this belief that I was too big. And so puberty was horrible. Like it was like, oh my God, how do I stop this horrible thing that's happening to me overnight? And I went through a lot of bullying about my body and about my clothing at that time as well. And so it really just hammered home the belief of my body is the problem with me. My body is a problem. And my body is the reason that I don't deserve to be treated well, that I deserve to be like lowest on the totem pole in my girlfriend group, that I go to school every day and I worry if they're going to be nice to me or they're going to harass me because of what I'm wearing or what I look like or how I've done my hair. It wasn't just like my stomach or my chest. It was everything about me. It was how I tweezed my eyebrows in those early stages of like you tweezing your eyebrows and shaving your legs for the first time, how I did my hair. I was always doing something wrong and I was always the last person to find out that I had made this embarrassing mistake. And it created a lot of anxiety that was rooted in like social anxiety as well, because around that age, you're developing your interpersonal relationships and usually your same-sex relationships at that time. And so my relationships with other women were everything I just described, like really volatile, really unsafe. I learned to be a people pleaser in order to keep other people, if I did favors for them, I could keep them at bay and they wouldn't harass me so much. I developed an amazing sense of humor, but it came from a place of realizing that if I played like court jester and I was funny, they would have a reason to keep me around and be nicer to me. And I developed a lot of coping mechanisms to avoid the harassment and to feel a little bit safer. But they were all rooted in this belief of my body is my fault. And it's the reason that I don't get asked out by boys, why the girls don't want to be friends with me, why they whisper when I leave the room. And long story short, high school was a little bit more bearable because a lot of the kids that bullied me left, but I didn't remedy this massive insecurity. I just had these beliefs of that's just how my life is and that's how I am. So this is how it's going to be until probably university. So I was barely 18. I think a few weeks after turning 18, we go to college in the US, and I went very far from home. I knew absolutely no one, and I discovered the gym for the first time. I was also on a meal plan, which means that you're not eating your mom's cooking at home anymore. You're not at home anymore, and you have kind of freedom over what you eat for the first time. But for me, that was very exciting in the beginning. And then I started to gain weight and it became very scary. And so by the end of my first year of school, I was obsessively dieting, counting every calorie, orthorexic again. So obsession with being healthy at every cost. I was obsessed with tracking my sleep and my steps on the Fitbit that I wore at the time. I would cry if I couldn't go to the gym. I was constantly Googling, because this is before everyone used ChatGPT, constantly Googling what was in my food. I was making the most bland, quote unquote, healthy versions of recipes, like substituting the classic rice for like cauliflower rice. Rice is horrible, horrible. Anyone that tries to tell me it's not, you're lying.
Yeah.
And I was lying to myself. I was convincing myself like it's all in the name of health. I'm doing a lifestyle change, and deep down was desperate to be accepted by my girlfriends, who our main bonding point was that we were all basically developing eating disorders together. Our group chat was literally called Lifestyle Change, and we would just send progress pictures and talk about how we skipped meals. And then by men as well. I'm a heterosexual female, unfortunately. And so I seek my primary romantic attachments in men. And I had learned from such a young age, again, that my body was a problem. And I was subjecting myself to basically horrible treatment from the opposite sex, with the deep desire to be loved, with the deep belief that I never would fully be, because I was too much and not enough at the same time. That's the long story long of the hard part. I did finally get to a breaking point, and it was the breaking free point as well, but it was absolutely a breaking point.
For sure.
Really hope you're enjoying the More to Life podcast and all the incredible guests that we have on. We also have plenty of other exciting things happening in 2026. The Elevate Day Wellness Festival is back on June the 12th. We also have a Spanish retreat and another retreat in the beautiful countryside of Devon. If you are interested, simply pop us an email or find us on Instagram at I am Elle Mace to find out more.
And I think sometimes, not for everyone, but maybe you have to just get there in order to make the change. If you look back over your time when you were just choosing your cauliflower rice and going to the gym and you weren't at that breaking point, it wouldn't have been enough to make the change. You had to get to the point of where your body was like, I'm absolutely exhausted and fight and flight is just running out, and like that we need a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that some people that may not be the case, but for a lot of people I work with, I hear that a lot of, I just can't do this anymore. What I hear a lot as well is I've tried everything. I did everything right, and it still didn't work. And that's really the experience I had. Fast forward to the end of my university. So 3.5, almost 4 years later, the pandemic hit. I got pulled out of school, and school was a very fast-paced environment that really enabled my eating disorder, because it was very easy to be quote unquote too busy to eat, to go to the gym all the time, to have really unhealthy relationships with your body and with the opposite sex and with the same sex, because everyone around me was doing the same thing. I found the people that were doing the same thing, and so it normalized it. And then the pandemic happened, and I got pulled out of school very unexpectedly, and never went back. And I was back in my parents' house in the middle of winter, so too cold to exercise outside, trying to maintain such a intense mindset and habits that were not sustainable in that environment. And I think that my mind kept trying to go at full speed and be like, okay, we need to do this, count the calories, do the workouts, all this stuff. But my body was sleeping enough for the first time in forever and wasn't really spending a lot of energy and wasn't working and wasn't doing school anymore because the pandemic was so sudden that I completely crumbled. Like I got to a point where I was so exhausted that I couldn't get out of bed, much less do my 2 workouts a day. And I remember having this moment of, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And in that time as well, I hit the goal weight finally. I hit the goal weight within a month of being home for the pandemic, looked in the mirror and was like, I still absolutely hate myself more than anything. It didn't work. Again, I did everything I was supposed to. And then I crumbled. I absolutely crumbled and I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah, your body forced you into that kind of state in order to just not be able to do anything. And I love it when people share this story of I hit my goal weight and then what? Like you try and push it further, which is just absolutely crazy. You just feel nothing because you've got no energy. There's no fuel inside of you. And that realization of I was holding on to this thing for what, 15 years? That happiness was like a ticket at the end of this. And it's so disheartening and again, just exhausting when that doesn't come off.
I remember I stepped on the scale and the scale was to the right of the mirror. So I couldn't see myself in the mirror as I was standing on the scale. Stood on the scale, eyes looked down at my toes, saw the number I'd been wanting for so long, thought, I feel nothing. Let me look in the mirror. So I stepped to the side, looked in the mirror, thought, worse, I feel horrible. And then my next thought was, oh my God, and I still have to go make myself breakfast after this because my ritual was like, go to the bathroom, get everything out of me, weigh myself, then go have a breakfast that I planned a week ago that's within my calorie allowance, which was very low. And that thought of, oh my God, I have to go make breakfast was like utter defeat because it was a realization that the only way I was going to maintain this weight was to stay doing the things that were completely crushing my soul. And it wasn't even worth it. And so I still had to go make breakfast. It was going to be a breakfast I knew I'd be convincing myself to believe I enjoyed. And it wasn't even worth it because it didn't work.
And who did you do it for? Like that mission to get that goal, who was that for?
Yeah, looking back on it now, if I did it at the time, if you asked me, I would have said, it's for my health, it's for my health, it's for my health. Now, I would say just desperation to be loved and accepted by friends and romantic partners. Like, again, I dated shitty guys for all of college. And I was in a lot of codependent, toxic friendships. And all of it, looking back now, I was just desperate to be good enough and to have someone else's conditional approval finally convince me that I was good enough. I also think there's a level of like, we put ourselves through that hell trying to prove that we're good enough because of how hard we can push ourselves. And that is a really interesting part of the body image stuff of it's actually rooted so deeply in productivity and being an overachiever, being a high performer. I have so many clients who are like, yeah, I was like a straight A student, valedictorian, top of my class. I have a lot of ex-athletes, like high-performing athletes as well. And I think it's really linked to performance and pushing ourselves in that way. But yeah, who did I do it for? Not myself.
Yeah, because actually your story, it doesn't sound like that push was from your home life. However, when you're at university, which just is so typical and toxic, and you're in WhatsApp groups with like weigh-ins and all that sort of stuff, there is a level of competition, isn't there?
Yeah, it's that belief of because of what my body looks like, competition, like because of what my body looks like, standing next to my smaller friends, I was always the biggest one. No matter my size, I was always the biggest one. I just chose friends in college that were like 5 feet tall and so tiny, and I'm not. Yeah, it's that feeling of I will never be someone's first pick. And I'm sure that starts from a much younger age. But in university and even in middle school and high school, it was like, I won't be chosen over anyone else. I will be chosen because I'll be the last option. And that causes a lot of envy and comparison and jealousy that's not rooted in hatred. It's rooted in scarcity and desperation, but it still doesn't feel good.
And anyone listening to this, I want you to just really hook onto the language that you're using. Obviously, you're talking about past experiences. If we were talking about you now, the language would be very different. But chosen, worthiness, like these key words that people need to acknowledge and listen if that's coming up for them in the present moment or in the past. Just jumping forward then into this very present day, with that kind of chosen with, in your situation, men, do you see that play out now? Is that still a thing that comes up?
It's so interesting you asked that, because I think dating is one of the strongest mirrors into our confidence. And I think that when you're healing your body image and your confidence, you heal it in a lot of different contexts. So I've healed a lot of my relationship with my family. I've healed my body image in relation to my friendship groups, and I have really strong, amazing friendship groups now. But I think that dating is an area of my life that I do feel really solid in, and I feel so much better than I used to. But it's the area where I'm actually putting active work now, because it does still come out. It doesn't come out so much of, honestly, my body image is like so strong that I look in the mirror and I'm like, amazing, like great, love it.
Yeah.
Nine and a half times out of 10, that's how I feel. But it will definitely come out more of being overly eager when I'm dating someone new. And so I have multiple people in my life who are qualified to help me with this. They're all good friends. I meet amazing people living here in Bali, but I hire on my acquaintances as coaches as well. So a good friend of mine put on her coaching hat, and we had a session today. And she's a neurologist. It's really amazing to talk about the brain chemistry of all this. And we were talking about this desire to be chosen. And I was sharing with her like a recent dating experience where I had this tendency to self-abandon in order to be chosen. And I think the self-abandonment is so common in those of us who have had past eating disorders or body image struggles, because it's a different form of self-abandonment. A lot of the work I do in my Dream Girl circle in the group in the beginning is all about reconnecting to your body's cues, because we've so often abandoned our conversations and our connection with our body in terms of needing rest and hunger. And then the same themes come out in our relationship. We abandon our needs and we abandon our boundaries. And that's the part that I'm really diving so deep into, like deep into my childhood, my attachment wounds, my fear of rejection, everything there. I will say, I don't date shitty guys anymore. There is hope. There are amazing men out there. I've had to work really hard to be where I am now, including unlearning all of the resentment and the fear and the anger I was carrying towards men. And then learning how I want to show up, and then learning how to fix my picker. So like the part of me that chooses a man, understanding why I make choices I do, and then how to make better choices. And that has been a really empowering experience. It has been such a whirlwind, but deep romantic partnership and family is something that I really want in my life. And so I'm really dedicated to finding that. And it's translated into my client work as well. I help so many people with this now. But yeah, it's all connected and it's really mind-blowing.
Oh, it is so mind-blowing. It is completely connected. Absolutely everything. The people pleasing, the lack of boundaries, the self-abandonment, all of it. How you eat, how you think about food, your body. The list goes on and on. Perfectionism, scarcity. Oh, like, this is why I do what I do, because when I went through my recovery, very similar to you, I just had this realization of, oh my God, it's not another food diary and it's not another gym program. This is what I've been hooked on for so long. It's actually, like you, the fact I'm a people pleaser, especially in school friendship groups. All these parts that actually, when I started to heal those, the food just improved without even having to fixate on the actual food. It can just play out as you go. And you touched on, you used to attract toxic men when you were going through your struggles. Now you come across to me as somebody who really values their worth. Like, I think it's really authentic. I can just see it from every part of me. you're someone of high worth and high self-concept, you probably don't even have to work so hard to attract those guys that actually aren't toxic, the ones that you've just recently spoken about. Like, actually, there's some fantastic guys out there.
Yeah. So it's actually really interesting because I don't have to work hard to attract them. I need to work hard to let them in, and not just let them into my life and tell them all about myself. It's like when I go out on the town, I walk into a cafe here in Bali, I have a guard up. I have a guard up. And it's because I self-abandoned for so long that I'm so afraid to do that to myself again. So there's a level of self-trust that we're learning here, right? I have to actually work really hard to let my guard down because I logically know that there are so many amazing men out there. I've worked so hard to create strong male friendships, and I love the male friends in my life. But when it comes to romance, I'm still breaking that wall down. But it's tricky because I am so confident in every other area of life. I don't know if you know this about me, but I've started nude modeling recently for like art studios.
Wow.
And so I'll go to the studio, get completely naked, and have a bunch of strangers draw me. But making eye contact with a guy that I think is hot in a cafe is like mortifying. And it's actually really interesting, like the self-compassion we have to have in this healing journey to meet ourselves where we're at and just really ask, why can I get naked in front of a bunch of artists, but I can't make eye contact with a hot guy? And it's really the curiosity there is so interesting. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
It's so interesting. I don't know what's coming up for me right now is maybe you've done so much personal development and you've grown so much. There's always something to work on. So you've got like body image, right, tick, family, right, tick. And you're obviously in this process with relationships. Maybe the ego's just going, hold on a minute. If you break through this as well, then what else? And we are just becoming such a different person. This is way too scary. So the ego's just, I'm going to make eye contact really fucking difficult for you just to keep you here.
Yeah. What I say to my friends is I'm like, the universe knows I'll be too powerful if I also have a really amazing man by my side. But to that point, the rate of change has been so positive, but so rapid in my life over the last 5-6 years. Like my life turned on its head in the best way possible. And I spend 99% of my time extremely happy and fulfilled. But there's also been a lot of having to get to know this new version of myself. And I really feel that present in this conversation because, so I was in a long-term relationship until 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago. Long story short, we were not compatible anymore. I'd been with him for 4 years and I wanted to live a life full of online working, running my business and traveling. And he told me we would travel when we were 50. So I said, I have to go. Broke up with him, moved to Bali. Yeah, bye. But so much of my life has changed since then. And so much of how I see myself, like I'm so much more myself. I'm not a different person. I'm so much more myself. But I have never had a long-term relationship as who I am now. And so I think there's also fear of like the only version of me that I know in a committed partnership, like to the point that we are living together, is that version of me that I don't want to go back to. And part of this healing journey of appreciating how far you've come, but also trusting yourself that you have the tools and you have the knowledge to not totally fall back into past patterns at the earliest trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. The awareness to self here is mega. Like you're such a conscious being, aren't you? To have these thought processes, which I think when you're in this line of work and you've been doing this conscious work for so long, it's hard to think that like there are so many people out there that actually will suppress all emotion towards anything and actually won't have these realizations. They'll still sit with the fact that it's me. Like I was literally with someone the other day who's had this string of toxic men. And I was trying to explain why this might be, but there was such a deep ingrained feeling of it's me. And I'm like,
yeah,
if you can just shift into really listening to your thought processes here, you can make such a change.
Yeah. What I've stepped into the knowledge of recently is that I ask myself this question of like, how do I think the world works? Because that sounds like a really absolutist belief. I just used to say this to myself, that's how the world is. Again, my body looks the way it does. That's not going to change. And my body's a problem. So that's just how my life is going to go. Or when I was legitimately afraid of men, like men are dangerous. That's just how the world works. And a million other beliefs, like being skinny is the most important thing to everybody in the world. That's just how. And I've started to ask myself, like, how do I complete that sentence of the world is this way? And then really starting to understand that it's actually a really subjective perception. If it's triggering for anyone listening to this to hear not all men are dangerous, that's a really good window into a piece of healing work that you may be ready for, may not. But if you want a strong romantic relationship with a man, it's one you're going to have to tackle. Or like the belief of being skinnier is what everybody prefers. That's an absolutist belief I used to hold. And that conscious work a lot of times is just knowing what questions to ask yourself, including like, how do I see the world and how do I want to see it differently? But that's a question I come back to a lot. Well, how do I think the world works? And who in my life maybe shows me that it could be a little bit different? You meet those people sometimes and they're just so happy that it seems like they're faking it. I used to think those people were just like a sham. I used to be like, there's no way. Like, you're faking it. And now I actually am one of those people a lot of times, but I had to spend a lot of time around people like that. It's the reason people hire coaches. You need to spend time around people that have the perspectives that you want to have, that feel the feelings you want to have, that have the friendships and relationships and lifestyle you want to have. But it's also what I call positively triggering. Like, it is exposing yourself to stuff that's going to make you very uncomfortable, but it's a necessary part of the life. Yeah, I have a little sticker on WhatsApp. Like, you can send the little stickers, like pictures. I have one that's like a text from myself that I screenshotted, and it's all capitals, and it's, I wish I was still toxic. And I send that to my friends when I like want to do something I would have done in the past, but I won't do it. But I just need to acknowledge, like, part of me wishes I was still toxic.
Yes. Yeah. I totally get that though, because that toxic self, being that way, had benefits. There was a reason why you behaved in the way you did, because there was some, sounds a bit fucked up, but there was some benefit there. And sometimes you just need that benefit, but actually you don't need the benefit.
Yeah, exactly. I think the benefit for me was so often validation and attention, but it was so surface level. And so I have to like white knuckle myself and be like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Where can you go get healthier love? And it's frustrating, but it works.
Oh my God, I'm just so resonating with this. Like, I have to just hold back on like maybe sharing information, or someone might ask me about somebody. And I'm like, the old me would have wanted to tell them what I know to validate that I know this person and I know what's going on here because I know everything, I know everyone, and I'm popular, whatever. And I have to work hard to be like, you do not need to share this. This is none of your business. Say nothing. Leave the conversation with them thinking that I maybe don't know the person. But it's like, that was the right thing to do. Yeah. But my little self, tell them you know them. Oh, this is illegal. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it anymore. But you can just see, it just plays out in you, doesn't it?
Yeah, that reminds me of that desire to be chosen, like showing someone that you're speaking with, that other person chooses me. They choose to confide in me. They prioritize me in some way. And no one talks about how when you heal something like body image, like I hear this from my clients all the time. They're like, I stopped oversharing and I stopped gossiping. How weird is that? And I'm like, babe, not weird at all. You don't need to prove that you're worth knowing anymore. But gossiping and oversharing are both like, to me, the desire to just be seen and to be chosen and to be good enough.
1,000%. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on that, because that still plays out, I think, in a lot of women's lives, no matter how old they are and how much work they've done. It's still a thing. We've gone on and we've gone over, and I still have so many questions, but we have run out of time. So would you be able to share where everyone can please find you on socials?
Yes. So I am Sarah, Sarah with an H, like inside, yellow, like the color, on pretty much everything. My website, sarahanyellow.com. The reason I will explain for people wondering is that when I started my first little Instagram blog, that was study abroad blog, and then it was fitness blog, and now it is what it is with all the body image work. Being in yellow was very much like being in sunshine, being in happiness. Is my favorite color. It makes me feel like I am just a happy, sunshiny flowery, summery person. And being Sarah in yellow is like me being in my happiest, most true state. So that's why it is my handle on all social media. I don't really use much anything other than Instagram, though. That's definitely my primary. And you can always reach out on my website if you want to send me an email too. There's always a form there, and you can check out workshops I have coming up. And if anyone's in Bali, please come find me in person. In person is like my favorite thing in the world. I'm here most of the year, and I do the free women's circle every 2 weeks so that you can check out. But otherwise, online, come say hi.
This will also all be in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much. You've been an absolute pleasure to chat to.
I feel like I could talk to you forever about this kind of stuff.
It's been a lovely conversation. It's definitely not been like just surface level. I think we've dropped some really key points in for people to hook onto and maybe consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I've been surface level for 5 years now. So.
No, love it.
I don't think I even have the ability for small talk.
No, don't do any of that. Straight in. Thank you so much, Sarah. We'll speak soon.
Yeah, so nice talking.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, then please head over to give us a rating. We would really, really appreciate that. And as a return, send us a screenshot of your rating and we will send you a free 45-minute hypnosis for absolute daily motivation. This is a must listen to every day in order to create your best future self.